and every Thursday on the Caribbean's powerhouse, Von Radio, for Speak Up, a social commentary talk show that addresses the state of affairs on Nevis. Expect great conversations, different perspectives, and an all-inclusive approach to moving Nevis forward. Tune in. It's time for us to speak up.
Good evening. Today is Thursday, January 20th, 2022. I am Jaedee Caines, and as always, I am here on a Thursday evening for Speak Up. As the introduction would have told you, it's a social commentary talk show that aims to keep you informed and educated about matters of national interest. And sometimes we take it a little bit further afield and we go regionally. Now, I want to say good evening to everyone who continuously tune in to the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse, Von Radio, every Thursday night. You're listening to 860 AM or 93.7 FM on your radio dial. Some persons have opted to tune in via social media. So for those who may not know, we are also on social media. We are on Facebook. We are on YouTube. On YouTube, you can search for Von Radio. On Facebook, we are on Von Radio's Facebook page. We are on the NRP's Facebook page, as well as my own Facebook page. Ladies and gentlemen, this show is a show that you should be listening to every Thursday night. Last week, we would have touched on the corona pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, and we would have asked persons to continue to exercise extreme care and caution as they go about their business. We also took some time to go through the 2017 manifesto of the Concerned Citizens Movement, the governing Concerned Citizens Movement, and we looked at some areas that were promised to us, the people of Nevis, but have yet to be delivered. This evening we have a great show lined up for you, and we hope to continue touching on some of those election promises of 2017, as well as talk a little bit about what's happening currently here on the island of Nevis, and we'll go a little bit into the region to touch on some politics in Barbados. Now, I want to extend an extra special good evening to individuals at home and abroad. We thank you for tuning in every Thursday night, and perhaps this may be your first time. If it is, please don't make it your last. So I want to say good evening to those of you who are living in Nevis 1 St. Paul. Then I go up to Nevis 2 St. John, and I say an extra special good evening to all of you. Go a little bit further in the east, and I say good evening to the residents of St. George, Gingerland. Then I take the bend and I go on over to St. James, and I say good evening to the persons over there as well. So nice to have you. And of course, I round it up in St. Thomas's, and I say good evening to all the residents of St. Thomas's as we make our way back to Charlestown, number 1 in number 1. I am so happy to have you here this Thursday. I mean, you can hear the energy and the vibe in my voice, because I enjoy coming here on a Thursday evening. Sometimes you see me looking down because I try to follow the comments that come in on the social media platforms as well. I'm trying to share it, to persons, because, quite a few persons ask me, where's the link? Where's the link? So that's I'm multitasking when I'm here. But ladies and gentlemen, there is a packed show for you tonight. Definitely a packed show for you tonight. As always, we want to make sure that we extend condolences to everyone who may be mourning at this point in time. Just this week, I attended 2 funeral services. On Tuesday, I would have attended the funeral service of Sydney Jeffers, who we know as Sydney French Jeffers, at the Taylor Memorial Western Holiness Church, and I want to again offer my condolences to his entire family, particularly his wife, Cavella. I had the opportunity to speak to her. She's a strong woman, but you can imagine that this is a difficult situation for her, and so I just want to encourage persons to look out for her and the other members of her family, and just keep them in our prayers, because people take death differently, and it is indeed a trying time. Yesterday, Wednesday, I attended the funeral service of Joan Fobbs. That service was held at Marion Heights at the United Pentecostal Church, And I want to again offer condolences to those who mourn her loss. She had quite a few children and grandchildren, and she had some great grandchildren as well. Very well known lady. And so I want to offer again condolences to her family, the Forbes family, the Gums family, you know, all of them. Quite a few reside in the constituency of St. Paul, and so please accept my deepest sympathies. And today I would have heard some very sad news. A lady who is well respected, well loved, someone who I remember when we visited her, if it wasn't last year, maybe the year before, I remember visiting her on National Heroes Day, because the NRP Women's Group would have taken a token to her. We wanted to honor her for her work in the community, and that's Winifred Parry. And I remember when I asked her if she knew who I was, because there I am thinking that, you know, I'm a young girl and she's a much older lady, even though she doesn't look it. And I said, you know who I am, or you remember who I am? And she looked at me like as if I was fresh, you know, as the old people would say, like I was fresh. I was forward with her, and she told me, of course, Jaedee Caines. And so I want to offer condolences to the entire Parry family. We know them well. Lots of children, quite a few children. Her daughters are well known, and we just want to, you know, lift them up in prayer and pray that they find comfort in fond memories. Also to, you know, the nieces, the nephews, the grandchildren, all who mourn the loss of that great lady Winifred Parry. And there are others who are mourning at this point in time, and I just want to offer condolences to you, because I know that that can be a difficult time. This can be a difficult time for you. Ladies and gentlemen, I told you that we are going to touch on a little bit of everything this evening. I want to touch on some politics. I don't know how many of you would have heard by now. If you haven't heard, shame on you. But Mia Moore Motley has been re-elected as the Prime Minister of Barbados, and I'm chuckling because of some activity happening here in the studio. Yes, Mia Moore Motley has been re-elected Prime Minister of Barbados. And you know something? I remember a few years ago, when she has been in it for some time, but for me, she stood out a few years ago. And I remember when she continued to fight and she continued to push and talk about why she should be elected and why there needed to be a change in Barbados. And I remember how persons used to drag her. I remember how they used to drag her. They spoke about her appearance. You know, I remember them, you know, persons commenting that she resembled Medea. You know, I remembered persons speculating about her orientation. I remembered persons talking about her physical appearance. Man, they had all kinds of things to say about that lady. And you know what stood out to me? She remained focused. She remained focused through it all. And so she allowed you to talk about what you perceive to be her orientation and her appearance and all of that. And then she said, so what does, now that you've established that, what does that have to do with the policies that we are trying to put in place in the island of Barbados? And I loved that about her. She was able to remain focused. And we're going to pick back up that a little bit. I want to go across and say good evening to my colleague Rohan. Rohan, good evening.
Good evening, Jaedee. How are you doing?
I am doing well, thank you.
Wonderful. It's good to be back in the studios for another edition of Speak Up.
Yes.
I know I would have missed the formalities, but I just want to extend condolences to the Parry family.
Yes.
Good friend of mine who would have lost grandmother today.
Yeah.
So condolences to them and to anybody else who
put your mic a little closer.
Suffering at this time, when they lost, going through any difficulties. As per usual, our thoughts and prayers are with you.
Yes.
And of course, we like to extend congratulations as well. Congratulations to those who are celebrating with the birthday anniversary. And of course, we want to extend congratulations to Mr. Devon Liebert, who would have been appointed as the CEO for the Nevis Tourism Authority. And so kudos and congratulations to him. I wish him all the best in his new post. I recognize you were talking about Safer with Mia.
Yes, Rohan, before we jump back into that, I wanted to, I forgot to mention that the Thompson Cozier family is also mourning at this point in time. And so I just want to offer some words of encouragement and my sympathies to that family, Dara and even Abigail, all of them.
Yes.
You know, so I just wanted to offer my condolences to that family as well. Yes, Rohan, Safer with Mia, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you know, a lot of people thought Mia was a little bit out of her mind, calling an election, 18 months
Early
out from its due date. But Mia recognized that she needed to solidify certain things. And what I love about Mia is that she's focused, as you would have said, on empowering people.
Yes.
And she made that clear when she went back to the polls, that it was about giving power back to people. And they would have spoken loud and clear.
Yes.
Crystal clear. No ambiguity in the message that was sent. 30-0. And so she has the ultimate power to govern. I was pleased that during the campaign she made no excuses. And she recognized the challenges that she faced as a leader, both managing an IMF program and the COVID-19 pandemic, but there was never a time when she made an excuse. She continued to lead her cabinet to work for the people.
Yes.
And she highlighted the many things that they would have done in the face of all of that.
Yes.
Being mindful and remembering always that they were in service to people.
Yes, yes.
And so, you know, that made me feel good. Our party continues to preach that message, that we're in service to people. And at the heart of it all, our job is to ensure, our mission is to ensure that as Nevisians and those who call Nevis home, that we are doing what we were elected to do, and that is to work tirelessly. And so, congratulations to Lady Motley.
Yes.
I've always been a super fan of Miss Motley ever since I met her way back when at the OTI. And I love how she represents not just her people, but the people of the Caribbean, and putting forward issues that are relevant to the people of the region. And so I look forward to that quality leadership again, not just for the people of Barbados, but the people of CARICOM.
Yes, I agree. And as we wrap up, I know that all of the attention right now is on Prime Minister Mia Motley and her cabinet of the Barbados Labour Party. However, I want to, in addition to congratulating them, and not by any means watering down their accomplishment, still encourage the opposition, because we need an opposition. We need an opposition in any island, in any country. We need an opposition. And so, yes, the opposition may have some work to do in terms of regrouping and restructuring, possibly. Whatever it is needs to be done, they ought to get it done. Right? And if there was any speculation, there ought not to be any speculation at this point in time, based on the results that, you know, came in last night and in the wee hours of this morning. However, the opposition ought to remain focused, and the opposition ought to remain relevant, because regardless of the results, regardless of the end results, the fact is there are some persons who still relied on you. And so you have a duty to perform as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, we just wanted to take some time to comment on Barbados' elections. And you know, Rohan and I share similar thoughts on that. And I the last thing I want to say on that is that I recognize that Prime Minister Motley's party had quite a few women in there. I wish to see a few more, not just because we want to just put women in for putting women in sake, but just because I want it to be normal. I want the day to come when persons are no longer surprised when you see women. That's all I want. Let it be normal. Nobody is asking, well, who's staying home with your children? Well, who's staying home with the men children? You know? So I want it to be normal. I want it to be just as normal as it is to see men in politics. Rohan, last week we would have touched on, we touched on the CCM manifesto of 2017, and we looked at some of the promises that were made back then in 2017, and we took the time to highlight the majority of promises that were made that had not been delivered. There are some that we weren't able to comment on because we did indicate that we will save some for this week, and trust me, because it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
A lot that was promised and not delivered. And so I want to pick that up. Last week we focused a little bit on social development, but primarily we focused on governance, those two areas of CCM's manifesto. And for those who were not here, the promises began on page 42 of the manifesto of 2017, and they continue down to page 54 of the manifesto of 2017. And so if you, like us, still have a copy of that manifesto, we want you to refer to it, because we don't want you to think that we are lying. And so we touched on certain things in governance, and we touched a little bit on social development. But let us pick up. Under social development, we were told that a music academy will be established along with a state-of-the-art recording studio. It was said that these will allow Nivision youth to develop their musical talents and recording skills. Rohan, I don't know that I've seen that.
Well, I haven't seen it. Not that I don't know, but I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the music academy. I haven't heard anything about that, and I have not heard anything about the recording studio either. So
that again is another
F.
Failure. We're continuing as we did last week. Also, we were told that your CCM government will source vocational training opportunities abroad and incentivize students through financial assistance to utilize the services of the UE Open Campus. Now, the problem I have with some of these promises that were made is that they are worded in such a way almost to suggest, let me cover myself in case I don't do it. So you're putting a word here, you're putting a word there that could kind of offset it. But the people of Nevis aren't foolish. The people of Nevis aren't foolish. So the question I want to ask the people of Nevis when it comes to this one, how many persons do you know would have benefited from vocational training opportunities abroad under this administration and incentives through financial assistance for them to study at the UE Open Campus? I know I recently studied at the UE Open Campus, and I ain't gonna help. And other persons I know who were studying didn't get any assistance either. So that is the question. How many do you know? All right. Moving on, we were told that the government, the CCM government, if elected, would create a fully furnished modern science lab at the Charlestown Primary School initially, and thereafter for expansion island-wide. Rohan, the Charlestown Primary School is like a second home to me, for me. And I know I have not seen any modern site fully furnished, let alone modern science lab at the Charlestown Primary School. And so if that is where it should have started and eventually branch off island-wide, then I can say that it definitely has not gone island-wide, because it has not happened in Charlestown.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about projects in Charlestown that we have promised them and they just don't happen. What it is about the projects in Charlestown that they just can't seem to take off. I don't understand.
You know, Jaedee, at least Charlestown is promised projects. I don't know any other constituency have any projects to talk about. I mean, they're listed. We don't see them beginning to start, efforts to start.
If you say you're going to do it and you didn't do it and you have not come back, listen, it's still a failure.
Yep.
I am not nicing up anything. The fact is, on this one, it's another F, because the fully furnished modern science lab at Charleston Primary has not happened to date. Maybe it will start on Monday, but it hasn't happened to date. Also, we were told that the CCAN government would construct a permanent facility for the Navy Sixth Form and transform it to a community college for the continued training of the island's youth. Wonderful idea. Has not happened. You see, the reason we are taking the time to go through this, or to go through these rather, is because we want our persons to not be fooled when election promises are made. And don't fool yourself. I don't want you to think that we are just now here commenting on what was not done by the Concerned Citizens Movement, and we are not going to talk about what it is we intend to do. Oh, we will do that. The time will come when we will do that, and we will do that shortly. But we wanted to take you back first, because you need to know where you're coming from in order to know where you're going. And I posit that if this CCM administration had been failing before 2017, failed since 2017, I don't know that the CCM administration can offer you much more beyond 2022. And so we were told that the Sixth Form College will have a permanent facility, and it would be transformed, and it would be transformed to a community college for the continued training of the island's youth. Rohan, what is the grade on that one?
That's an F. I mean, I practically don't mark all of these things F, even before you got on the line. You know, one of the things I'm glad you said it, that this administration had been failing prior to 2017.
Yes.
And I think people are forgetting that this administration has had the reign of government since 2013, and you know, a lot of people are looking at it like it's just this first term, but I mean, that is even worse.
Yeah, because
if you've done absolutely nothing,
I mean, you've been here this long,
you have not attempted to fulfill 5% of the promises you would have made, and then you go around the whole heap of braggadocio about the basic elements of government that you have accomplished, and want people to stand and say hip hip hooray.
Yes,
those are part of your responsibility. That is what people expect in terms of basic government functions. These are things you do. I think I said it before. This is like saying thank you to the ATM for giving you money.
Yes, and so I recognize that there's a comment here on the chat, the live stream via Von Radio's Facebook page by one saying, rather than criticizing CCM, why you guys come out with some ideas about how to move the island forward. I believe that you would have joined late, but I thank you for joining nonetheless. A few moments ago, I would have pointed out that is exactly what we plan to do. We will share, as a matter of fact, we have been sharing some of the ideas and plans that we have for the people of Nevis, to strengthen the people of Nevis and the economy of Nevis. This show and last week's show, we decided to take a slightly different route, where we wanted to dissect the manifesto of 2017, and I would hope that you in your private time do the same. All right.
You know, it's listen, facts are stubborn things, and whatever people want to say we're criticizing or whatever it is they want to say, we are highlighting facts. And these are facts of the matter, that these things have not been brought to fruition. They were promised. They were elements of the manifesto.
Yes.
And I think we get into this habit of saying, instead of criticizing, why not bring forth plans? But these are the plans that were brought forth by this current administration and have not been fulfilled. We have a fundamental right to highlight the failures.
Preach.
Of the government. And so it's as if people are asking us to just sit down, don't say anything about what was promised to the constituents
and not delivered,
and say, okay, fine,
this is what we're going to do.
But we must be able to show you what was promised, hasn't been delivered, and what we intend to do based on what the mission and the vision of the NRP is. So we are not going to shy away from showing you or directing you to the areas where government has failed, and that is why oppositions are here. We are the checks and balances.
Yes,
and we must be able to do that if we are going to keep the democracy of the island alive. And so, as Jaedee said, our plans are coming. We have been hinting at some of them, and we have been direct with some of them. And I want to share with you the difference in approach here is that this NRP team understands the social, economic, and human impact of plans and policies.
Yes.
And some of these programs, and we have been clear. There's some of them here that we like.
Yes, exactly. We don't shy away from that.
The separation of the sixth form, because it has an economic impact, it has a social impact, it has a human impact.
Yes.
And had that been done, one can only imagine how many of our students could now boast and say they have successfully completed associate degrees or degree programs and those. You don't promise things in hopes of getting people's emotions riled up to a point that they support you.
Correct.
And then you have 5 years, and so you bant about and here and do nothing about it, and then in the 11th hour of your administration you come again promising the same or alike.
Yes, Rohan, I know you're passionate about it, but I want us to get through this list because we have so much that we want to talk about in coming shows, so we want to get through this list. Now, this one is comical for me. It says, your CCM in its next terms intends to forge ahead with renewed commitment and continue to place our people at the center of our development. Oh, tell me, what does this mean? What does this mean? When you put this in a manifesto as a promise to the people, what does this mean? This is the basic thing. I don't understand. What does this mean?
A good question. Then so who or what was the focus?
Exactly. So what was the purpose?
Yeah.
Okay, under the economy, we were told that CCM government will launch the redevelopment of the West Haven property. This undertaking would facilitate the expansion of Charlestown and add diversity to the tourism sector by creating a boardwalk, retail shops, restaurants, office space, and a marina facility. Devon Cornelius asks about this ever so often when there's a press conference. And it's always the same response. Rohan, that again is... Excuse me? That again, I will give you a failing grade.
Yeah,
we want to continue, Rohan. We were also told that the CCM government will provide a revolving entrepreneurial fund of $5 million annually to provide seed funding for new businesses at an interest rate of 2%. Now, for youths under 35 years old and women, I want to say this. Do not be fooled by the language. Do not be fooled by the language. Revolving fund. There's a difference between offering a revolving fund to women and girls 35 years and younger and what it is we are getting. But I'll speak up more about that in another show. We were also told that the government should discount business licenses by 50% to women and to youths under the age of 35 years for the first 3 years of the establishment of their business. I know that has not happened. As a matter of fact, on this radio station, I hear that every morning reminding persons to come and pay their business license, pay for their business licenses.
And this one in particular, the government should have sought to drive that home during the pandemic. But people, I met in Nevis 3 small business owners who cried that they had to pay the full amount for their small business license.
Rohan, we're going to get in these last two. It said facilitate the hosting of an exhibition every 2 years to showcase and market indigenous manufacturing enterprises. I suspect that will be blamed on the COVID-19 pandemic.
In 2020.
Okay. And we were told that there's which project was this? It said the project has renewed impetus. Oh, geothermal. With drilling once again taking place to take Nevis to production. Alternative energy has the potential to truly diversify and transform the island's economy. All of these are things that were promised in 2017, put in a manifesto by the Concerned Citizens Movement, and have yet to be delivered in 2022. But don't worry, an election is coming and you will see many of these copied and pasted, and you will hear some more. Rohan, your final word.
Yeah, and you'll hear a lot more of new programs coming on stream during this election year as well. I mean, the last one is a kicker for me. You talk about renewable energy and you bought yourself a brand new Watsilla engine. But I said it before.
Yes.
He said he'll flip the switch. Really and truly has pulled the plug.
Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of Speak Up. We will be back next week when we want to talk about these things and so much more. And yes, Mr. Nathaniel Archibald Online, we thank you so much for tuning in, and you will be hearing a lot more of our plans. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.
Join Jaedee Caines and Rohan Isles this and every Thursday on the Caribbean's powerhouse, Von Radio, for Speak Up, a social commentary talk show that addresses the state of affairs on Nevis. Expect great conversations, different perspectives, and an all-inclusive approach to moving Nevis forward. Tune in. It's time for us to speak up.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its